Tonight we're going to be in Exodus chapter 7. You may want to get a Bible and follow along, though all the verses will be on screen here. Exodus chapter 7. Moses has been told by God to go tell Pharaoh to let the people go. He went there, and instead of letting them go, Pharaoh got angry and made things worse. Sometimes you try to do right and things get worse. Anybody ever been there before? You're trying to do the right thing and the whole world falls apart. Like, what did I do here? You know, like, wow. And some people give up on God at that point. No, that's the time to really hang on and trust God. So, Exodus chapter 7. And the Lord said to Moses, "See, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh." It's an interesting concept. "And Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet. Thou shalt speak all that I command thee, and Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh, and he shall send the children of Israel out of his land." So God is predicting the future here. He's going to let them go. So Moses and Aaron have to hang on to this promise. God, you promised, because it took 10 plagues before it finally happened. Sometimes God makes a promise and it takes a while before it comes true. And we keep thinking, oh no, Lord, what's happening here? Just hang on. Maybe he's working on something else at the same time through all of this. God said, "I will harden Pharaoh's heart and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that I may lay my hand upon Egypt." What's going on here? God is hardening Pharaoh's heart, and Pharaoh's hardening his own heart. The situation makes Pharaoh get hard-hearted, and God is doing this so that he can clobber the land of Egypt, because they have been enslaving his people for 215 years. They were down there for 430 altogether, but half of it was when Abraham went down there and got the wife he never should have had. So that's a long story. But God said, "I'm going to do this so that I can lay my hand upon Egypt and bring forth my armies and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgments." All of this, God was doing a lot. It's like a chess player. You make one move and you're really trying to accomplish, 3 or 4 things. You're trying to block that guy and guard that guy and get ready to capture that guy, all with one move. So God is the ultimate chess player. He knows how to move people around and move situations around, and all of a sudden, click, it all falls into place. He's going to clobber Egypt. The whole thing is done for an example or an ensample for us. We can see what happened to how did the Jews react in all of this? How did Moses react? How did Pharaoh react? How did Pharaoh's people react? When you see a situation and what people, you can study that and say, did he do the right thing? Don't all the coaches do that after the game? Do they review the plays to see, okay, guys, who did wrong here and who did wrong here? And that was a good move and that was a bad move. I think we can look at any situation. It's this way in life. You can look back on your own life and see all kinds of things. You say, well, I should have done that differently. How many have ever been there before? How many have ever wished you could go back in time just 5 seconds to undo the dumb thing you just did? Anybody been there before? Like the thumb right there. It's going to take 6 months to grow out from clobbering that. Anyway, verse number 5. "And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord." Well, if nothing else, that's quite an accomplishment. Because the Egyptians had all kinds of gods that they worshipped. And God, in love, was going to clobber the whole kingdom so that the people would know, whoa, that's the true God, not these other ones. And so this was one, maybe the only way, but certainly one way to get their attention. Probably a lot of them got saved and are going to be in heaven now because of this, the judgment of God falling on their land. "The Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord when I stretch forth mine hand upon Egypt and bring out the children of Israel from among them." And Moses and Aaron did as the Lord commanded them. So did they. Boy, that's rare these days, isn't it? For somebody to say, okay, Lord, what do you want? All right, yes, sir, and go do it. "And Moses was 80 years old. A score is 20. And Aaron 83 years old." So Aaron was probably just a newborn baby when Pharaoh made the decree. He was just a couple, maybe 2 years old. Pharaoh said, okay, from now on, kill all the baby boys. So his younger brother Moses is born and he would have been killed. But Aaron is 3 years older. He was always 3 years older than Moses. You can figure that out. Whoa. "When they spake unto Pharaoh, and the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, When Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, Show a miracle for you, then thou shalt say unto Aaron, Take thy rod, and cast it before Pharaoh, and it shall become a serpent." Now, of course, all of this is a whole lot of wasted time because Moses should be talking to Pharaoh himself. Remember, he argued with God and said, I can't speak very well. God said, okay, take your brother. I'll tell you what to say to him, to say to Pharaoh. It could have gone a whole lot quicker without the interpreter. And Moses and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh, and they did so as the Lord commanded. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh and before his servants, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh also called the wise guys and the sorcerers, now the magicians of Egypt, and they also did in like manner with their enchantments. What? How could they turn their rod into a snake? Well, in the celebrated commentary series of the Old Testament, Jameson, Fawcett, and Brown comment on the incident between Moses and Aaron and the Egyptian magicians. The magicians of Egypt in modern times have long been celebrated adepts at charming serpents. Even today they do this. Particularly by pressing the nape of the neck, they throw them into a kind of catalepsy, which renders them stiff and immovable. So they just pinch their neck in the right spot and the snake gets stiff and can't move, semi-paralyzed. And they walk around with it like it's a stick, a walking rod, a stick. Then when they let go and throw it down, it starts to wiggle and becomes a snake again. They still do that today. So Moses goes in, drops his stick before Pharaoh. The Egyptians say, hey, we can do that, no big deal. And they drop their stick and it becomes a snake. Difference, of course, is Moses' really was a stick when it started, and now it really is a snake. So they conceal the serpent about their person, and by acts of legerdemain, produce it from their dress, stiff and straight as a rod. Just the same trick was played off by the ancient predecessors. And it appears they succeeded by their enchantments in practicing an illusion on the senses. How many have ever seen a magician that you say, how did he do that? Like, whoa, magic tricks, okay? I've got a videotape on magic tricks and how to do them. A whole bunch of magic tricks that I've done for years. Not really magic, it's just an illusion. It's deception. Pulling the rope through your neck. How many have seen that one before? Pull the rope right through, I can pull it right through my neck. People just like, what? Yeah, I'll do that sometime for you. Okay, the idea that a skilled magician could use a snake in such a way is no novel concept in the world of magic tricks. Walter Gibson, in his book Secrets of Magic, states that there is a certain type of snake that can be made motionless by applying pressure just below its head. Gibson also notes that the particular species of snake suitable for this stunt happens to be the Naja Haji, or Haji, otherwise known as the Egyptian cobra. This is the perfect snake to use for that trick. Pinch the back of the neck and it's paralyzed. Along similar lines, Rod Robinson, a comedy magician from Tucson, wrote, turning a rod into a snake, for instance, is easily accomplished. In the same method, modern-day magicians turn a cane into a flower or handkerchief. I've seen the cane to snake performed by magician Alan Roscoe. Believe me, it's impressive, from apologeticspress.org. So here's what happens next, though, is interesting. They're dropping their, Moses drops the stick, turns to a snake. The magicians say, no big deal. They drop theirs, turns to a snake. For they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods. I suspect Pharaoh was thinking, oh no, there's something different about this. And he hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he hearkened not unto them as the Lord had said. God's not done showing his wonders to Egypt yet. You know, the magicians did the same trick that Moses did, only Moses was actually a miracle. Satan wants to be like God, so he mimics God, just like the Egyptians would mimic what Moses did. In Isaiah chapter 14, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. The devil wants to be God. But the job's not available, so he's always pretending like he's God. Now think about, what are some of the attributes that God has, and what is Satan trying to mimic here? I like verse 15. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look on thee, saying, And consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble and did shake the kingdoms? When we see Satan about to be cast into hell at Judgment Day, we're going to say, this is the guy that did all that? How many saw the Wizard of Oz movie when they finally pulled the curtain back and it's a little guy back there pulling the levers like, that's it? This little man is doing all this, you know. I think we're going to feel that way Judgment Day. That's it? That's the devil? Wow. Now, the Bible says the eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. God sees everything. Well, then, of course, if Lucifer wants to be like the Most High, he has to figure out some way where he can try to see everything going on. Have you seen, Steve, have you seen these new little drones the military has?
Yes.
The size of a cigar. Yeah. There's a book, and the book of Revelation talks about creatures flying like locusts that have stings in their tails. I don't know if that's it or not, but we'll see.
Make one like a bee. They were trying to make one as small as a bumblebee.
As small as a bumblebee.
Yeah.
Fly in, get information. He wants to be like God by being able to see everything that goes on. That there's surveillance cameras all over the place now. Who knows what they can see from the satellites? You know, Steve, what resolution can they get from those things? From satellites in space.
Oh, insane. I don't know what the actual resolution are, but you know, they can see the pores on your skin if you're standing outside.
They can see the pores on your skin.
Yep.
See, I'm not saying satellites are bad and technology is bad. I'm just saying Satan is mimicking what God sees everything. He says, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure out a way to do the same thing. But I say unto you, Matthew 12, every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give account thereof in the day of judgment. For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. God can hear every word we speak. So guess what Satan wants to do? Eavesdrop and listen in. That's what your cell phone is doing right now. They can turn, Steve, can they turn the phone on without?
Yes.
They can turn your phone on and listen to what you're saying with your phone in the off position.
Yes.
Correct. How about this? Looks like a thumb drive. Costs 99 bucks. 576 hours of recording time. There's 168 hours in a week. They can record a whole month on a thumb drive. How about this little bitty microphone here? Where could you hide that? Voice-activated recorder stores 150 days. See, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm pointing out that Lucifer is not God. We're going to laugh at him one day, but until then, he wants to be like God. He wants to hear everything going on. Yeah, you say, hey Siri, and your phone starts talking back to you. How can I help? You know, it's racing toward this big brother, one world government, George Orwell, 1984. He missed it by 30 or 40 years, but he got the concept right, okay? So Satan, he wants to know what you think. Steve, what technology is going on to get to control or to record people's thinking? Have you heard anything on that score yet? Mind control kind of stuff? Used to help on all the technology stuff.
Yeah.
I was researching that today some, and I said, I don't think I quite have this already yet, but see, God knows what you think. So Lucifer, who wants to be like God, says, well, I want to know what people are thinking.
I just saw a video. There's something about they got a technology because now they're talking about arresting you for thought crimes because now they can tell the thoughts that you're gonna have or something. It's weird. They can go just
for thought crimes. I had a couple students. You never had to wonder what they were thinking because they weren't. Okay. Revelation chapter 12. There was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not. Neither was there any place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, which is called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out unto the earth, and his angels cast out with him. We're going to see the day, this is still future, when it says Satan deceives the whole world. Do you realize how many people there are who believe they came from a rock, which came from a dot of nothing exploding? You talk about being deceived. That's got to be the ultimate deception. You know how many people there are right now that believe the T-Rex turned into a chicken?
Survival of the fittest.
Hello, anybody home? Survival of the fittest. The deception is mind-boggling. He has deceived the whole world. It's just like the movie The Matrix, where just a few people really know what's going on, and the rest of it is like they're all deceived. They really are. It is that bad. In 2 Corinthians chapter 2, Paul said, "Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices." What devices does the devil use? Just like the magicians in Egypt used trickery, deceit, magic, fool people. One of the very first thing he said in the Garden of Eden, first words out of the devil's mouth in the Bible, the serpent said to the woman, "Yea, hath God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden." He's casting doubt on God's words. That's what he's always done. Anyway, back to Exodus. "And the Lord said unto Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened, he refuseth to let the people go. Get thee unto Pharaoh in the morning, lo, he goeth out unto the water. And thou shalt stand by the river's brink against he come, and the rod which was turned to a serpent shalt thou take in thine hand, and thou shalt say unto him," this is the third time now God's giving the exact same message, "The Lord God of the Hebrews has sent me unto thee, saying, Let my people go." Pharaoh is hard of hearing. Actually hard of listening, okay? "That they may serve me in the wilderness, and behold, hitherto thou wouldst not hear. Thus saith the Lord, In this thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Behold, I will smite with the rod that is in mine hand upon the waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood. And the fish that is in the river shall die, and the river shall stink, and the Egyptians shall loathe to drink of the river." People don't know this. Most people don't know this. God is giving judgment here on two of Egypt's gods. They worship the Nile River. And believe it or not, they worship the fish. They had a fish god. Dagon, the fish god. Of all the dumb things to worship, fish have got to be one of the stupidest animals God ever made. Dagon, the fish god. But they worship the fish. And God's, one by one, God's going to knock their gods down and make them realize. Remember the purpose, he said, so that Egyptians may know that I'm God. The corn god and the father of Baal was the fish god. Dagon, the fish god. Yes, ma'am.
Wasn't the snake god too? They had it on
Yep, they had a snake on their forehead of their thing. The kingdom was represented by a snake. Now this gets really interesting. Some of them would actually wear a cape with a fish hat, like the fish mouth is open. You say, that's dumb. Oh, they're still doing it. Oh, yeah. That's the fish hat, the Dagon fish god of the Canaanites and the Egyptians. Something very fishy in Western religion, the fish god. That's what the hat's all about. Turn it sideways and that's what you get.
Oh, that is a fish.
It is a fish. Anyway, the Egyptians worshipped all sorts of crazy gods. They worshipped the frog. One by one, God's going to send judgment on each of their stupid gods so that they can know, wow, he's the God. Remember the prophets of Baal were dancing around the fire, inventing rock music, you know, come on, Baal, light my fire. And when the fire finally fell down, when Elijah called for it, the people said, wow, the Lord, he is the God. The Lord, he is the God. They finally got the message. The Egyptians worshipped all sorts of crazy gods, and the God of Israel is going to take them down one by one. We'll see that in the next few chapters. And the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, take thy rod and stretch out thine hand upon the waters of Egypt, upon their streams, upon their rivers, upon their ponds, upon their pools of water, that they may become blood, and that there may be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, both in vessels of wood and in vessels of stone. And Moses and Aaron did so, as the Lord commanded, and he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the river, in the sight of Pharaoh, and in the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river returned to blood. That's what it says. And the fish that was in the river died. So their fish god died. And the river stank. Now they worshiped the Nile River. Not anymore. And the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river, and there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. How many saw the Charlton Heston movie where Moses, touch it, it all turns to blood, you know?
So when they were going to throw...
And the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantments. Now hold on, how did they do this? And what water would they turn to blood? If the Nile was already blood, well, there's two possible theories to explain this. One, it says they dug beside the river in the sand to get water to drink, so they would have had fresh water in the side. Or secondly, the Nile River is constantly flowing. If Moses turned it to blood, you wait a couple hours and it all flows out. Now there's new water coming in. That's another possible solution to this, of which water did they turn to blood. But the magicians did so, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened. Neither did he hearken unto them, as the Lord had said. And Pharaoh turned and went into his house, neither did he set his heart to this also. How many have seen in chemistry class the phenolphthalein demonstration where you test the pH of water and turn it red? Turn water, I used to do that with my kids all the time in science class. I'd have one glass of water and one glass with a little tiny bit of phenolphthalein at the bottom. You couldn't see it. And I'd say, watch this, and I'd pour it in, and as you pour it in, it all turns red. And I'd go, whoa, what did he do? I'm magic. You want to touch me? No, it's a trick. It's a chemistry trick. Using chemistry to turn a liquid into wine or blood and turn the water back again. This popular chemistry demonstration is called turning water into wine and turning water into blood. It's a very simple example of pH indicator. It's indicating the pH of the water is all it's doing. Phenolphthalein solution is what they use. You can buy it. It's real cheap. I order it online. Phenolphthalein if you want to turn the water into blood and impress everybody. Okay. So that, I don't know what the magicians did. It must have been some kind of chemical magic trick like that. It wasn't turning the water to blood, it was turning it red. The Egyptians digged round about the river for water to drink, for they could not drink of the water of the river. And 7 days were fulfilled, and after that the Lord had smitten the river. So God has so far taken on a couple of their gods, the river, the fish, and the snake. Ate the snake. It's interesting. Aaron picked up his snake. He picked it up by the tail. When God told Moses to do that, Moses picked it up by the tail, and it turned back to a stick. Whoa. The Egyptians had to pick theirs up by the head and pinch the neck just right. This is not a trick. This really happened. All right, chapter 8 next time.